The Wrong Bag. A mother's $500 million reckoning. Hold tight, because what you're about to read is not just a story. It's an emotional earthquake that will make you question everything you think you know about love, betrayal, and true strength. If this resonates with you, subscribe to the channel, hit like, and spread the word. Tell me where you're reading from in the comments. The Wrong Bag. Richard Montgomery never carried bags, not for himself, not for anyone. Yet this morning, beneath the cold, dazzling ceiling of Heathrow Airport, he held Camila's delicate designer purse, casually, dangling from his arm. To him, it was a harmless gesture, one of convenience, not devotion. But every step he took across the polished marble floor resonated differently. Camila walked beside him, slender and light, her cream dress gently billowing as she adjusted her sunglasses. Her smile was small, private, the kind of smile a mistress wore when she thought she had finally won. He didn't look at her. He didn't have to. His grip on the bag was answer enough. The luxury terminal buzzed around them. Hurried executives, immaculate staff checking passports, and lounge music fading into the distant announcement of departing flights. A private jet waited for them, but Camila insisted on walking through the departure gates. She wanted to be seen with him. Richard didn't object. Why would he? For once, he felt in control of his narrative, until he wasn't. It happened in seconds. First, the silence. Then, the heavy pause as strangers stopped moving. Conversations cut mid-word. Phones raised, not for calls, but for cameras. Richard followed their stares instinctively. His heart slowed to a halt. At the far end of the terminal, standing unsettlingly still amidst the morning chaos, was Sophia, his wife. She wore no makeup. Her face was pale with weariness. Her eyes were darker than he remembered. But the last thing Richard saw wasn't her face. It was the 4 small children clustered around her. 4 children, identical, each clinging tightly to her skirt, their little matching coats like ghosts against the polished floor. His quadruplets. Richard's hand opened reflexively. Camila's purse slipped from his fingers, hitting the floor with a sound far louder than its weight justified. His mouth moved but produced no words. Sweat stung beneath his expensive suit. Time fractured. Sophia didn't move. She didn't speak. She just looked. Through him. Not at him. Her expression wasn't anger. It was worse. It was pity. Flash. The first camera caught him. Then another. And another. Passengers who moments before envied Richard Montgomery were now recording his downfall. Frame by frame. In high definition. "Richard," Camila whispered, her voice cracking. He didn't hear her. His feet wouldn't move. His mind spun, uselessly cycling through conversations, excuses, plans. Nothing fit this moment. No contingency had prepared him for Sophia standing there, the proof of his abandonment clutching at her trembling hands. The children looked at him, confused. One small boy pointed a chubby finger, pulling at Sophia's sleeve. "Daddy?" Sophia flinched. Richard's stomach violently clenched. People were whispering now. Phones tilted for better shots. Whispers became murmurs, then audible questions. Is that his wife? Are those his children? Who is the woman with him? Camila backed away, as if physical distance could erase her involvement. She looked from Sophia to Richard and back, her lips trembling. She realized too late what everyone else already understood. She wasn't the woman Richard belonged to. She was the evidence of his betrayal. Sophia. His voice broke like a man who didn't recognize his own name. She finally moved. Slow, deliberate steps toward him. Not to close the distance, but to wound him with every inch of her composure. The children followed her, their steps uneven, unsure. Richard's heart hammered against his ribs. Desperate. Useless. Sophia stopped just short of him. Her voice was barely a whisper, but every syllable cut him open. "Is this what you carried her for?" She didn't wait for his answer. She didn't need it. Turning to her children, she knelt, lifting the smallest child into her arms, as if to shield him, and then she walked. Right past Richard, past Camila, past the reporters gathering near the entrance. Richard watched her go, unable to follow. And somewhere in the crowd, a reporter's voice cut through the silence. "Richard Montgomery, can you explain this?" But he couldn't. Why? How do you explain carrying the wrong woman's bag when your real life just walked past you, holding your legacy, the children of betrayal? The flashes continued, but Richard no longer saw them. Not even when the first tears finally fell. Richard didn't move. Not when Sophia walked past him. Not when the flashes became blinding. Not when someone shouted his name over the terminal speakers. It wasn't until the first journalist elbowed his way through, shoving a microphone into his face, that he blinked. "Richard Montgomery, are those your children? Who is the woman with you? Is your marriage over?" He opened his mouth, but his throat was raw, strangled by panic. His eyes desperately searched for Sophia, but she was already steps ahead, carrying one of the boys and guiding the others. Their little faces confused and tired. "Sophia, wait!" His voice cracked. She didn't. Instead, she stopped midway, turned deliberately, and faced the sea of cameras. Her voice was quiet, firm, unbreakable. "I am Sophia Montgomery," she said softly, but the silence was so dense her words propagated. "And these are Richard's forgotten children." The phrase detonated. For the press. For the strangers. For Richard himself. Gasps. Camera shutters clicking ceaselessly. Even the airport's automatic announcements seemed to pause, as if the building itself strained to hear. Richard's heart hammered against his ribs. "Sophia, don't do this!" He tried to move forward, but security, alerted by the escalating crowd, stepped between them. Richard's hand reached out to her, pleading, desperate. But all he caught was empty air. His wife looked him squarely in the eyes. Then she shifted her gaze to the bodyguard standing ready beside her. "Please escort me and my children." She didn't yell. She didn't plead. She commanded. And the guards hesitated only a moment before obeying, recognizing not the billionaire, but the woman, whose pain demanded respect. "Sophia, let me explain." His voice was hoarse, hollow. She approached him one last time, stopping just out of his reach. The children clung to her dress. Richard barely breathed. Then she leaned in, her lips close to his ear, her voice barely audible beneath the roar of the camera shutters. "They will remember the man who never picked them up," she whispered. "Not the one who carried her bag." And then she stepped back. Richard staggered. "Sophia!" But she was gone. Security flanked her, shielding her from the chaos as they cut a path through the crowd. The small figures of the children disappeared into the throng, swallowed by the flashing lights and raised phones. Richard's mind screamed, but his body remained paralyzed. Around him the questions still came, louder, hungrier. "Mr. Montgomery, do you deny paternity? Is your company at risk? Is that your mistress?" That last question jolted him. He spun around sharply. "Camila!" He searched, frantic, but the spot where she had been standing only minutes before was empty. No cream dress, no trembling hands, no presence. She was gone, vanished in the confusion she had left behind. Richard looked down, disoriented. Camila's designer purse lay forgotten at his feet. The absurdity of it twisted something deep inside him. The cameras, the noise, the now public, irreversible betrayal. And in that moment, he realized what the world now saw. A billionaire alone in an airport terminal, surrounded by questions, with no wife, no children. Just the burden of a bag he should never have carried. Above, the terminal announcement rang out cruelly. Flight 234, now boarding. Richard Montgomery remained immobile as the world watched his live collapse. The price of silence. A lonely flight out, Camila closed the airport restroom stall door and slid down the cold tiled wall, her knees shaking. The noise of the terminal outside was muffled here, but her heart roared louder than any sound. She stared into the small, cracked mirror above the sink. Her mascara was smeared, her cheeks flushed. But it wasn't weariness or fear that unnerved her now. It was recognition. Who am I to him? Her breath caught in ragged gasps. Minutes ago, she had stood next to Richard Montgomery, the billionaire she once believed was her future. Now she was alone, clutching her arms, shivering despite the heat. Somewhere in that terminal, his wife held his children. The children Camila didn't even know existed. Her mind replayed it all, snippet by snippet. Richard carrying her bag, the cameras flashing, and then Sophia's face. Quiet, powerful, the kind of woman Camila once envied. Now she feared her. She buried her face in her hands, but the memories crowded in, relentless. Flashback. Richard's penthouse. The first night she stayed. City lights glowed through the glass walls. He poured her wine, watching her with eyes she mistook for tenderness. "She doesn't understand me, Camila," he whispered. "You do. I'm trapped in that marriage. With you, I can breathe." She remembered the exact words, the way he said them, the way they felt like truth. Now she heard them differently. Another flashback. Her first modeling job canceled after Richard saw the photos. "You don't need them anymore," he told her. "Let me take care of you." She had smiled, but she had believed that was love. In the bathroom, Camila squeezed her eyes shut, hating herself for the memory. How long had she been a replacement? A substitute? Had she been his rebellion against Sophia, or his insurance policy? The worst thought of all crept in, cold and slow. Maybe I was never anything at all. Tears blurred her vision as her fingers dug into her skin. She thought of Richard's promises, how he spoke of Sophia as if she were ice, controlling, distant. But the woman she saw today was not cold. She was strong. And Richard? He looked smaller than she had ever seen him. Camila jumped at a knock on the restroom door. Her whole body shook. "Miss, are you all right?" A cleaner's voice. Camila's voice cracked in reply. "I just need a minute." The footsteps faded. She took a breath, but her pulse raced. What now? She had no answer. Richard wouldn't protect her. Not anymore. He hadn't even looked for her in the chaos. Not after Sophia arrived. Because the moment his wife arrived, she ceased to exist. Her gaze drifted to her phone. Dozens of messages. Friends. Strangers. Reporters. Her name was trending. Her photos were leaked. Headlines screamed, "Richard Montgomery's mistress identified." She was no longer a secret. She was the scandal. Suddenly the walls felt suffocating. She stumbled to her feet, fumbled for the sink, splashed cold water on her face, hoping it would numb the searing shame. But water couldn't cleanse what she felt. That was all she had ever been. A tool in Richard Montgomery's war against a woman he never truly knew. A war she never agreed to fight. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification. Another headline. She dropped it, letting it clatter to the floor. When she finally looked in the mirror again, she saw it. The end of the illusion. No glamour, no future. No him. Just Camila. And her mistake. A single thought resonated in her mind. I have to get out. Not just of this bathroom. Of the city. of the story, of him. She reached a trembling hand for her phone and pulled up her rideshare app. One destination came to mind, a place he would never look for her. 6 hours drive. She left the bathroom, cutting a path through waiting passengers. She realized something darker. She wasn't running from Sophia. She was running from herself. The strategist. The safe house was not much. Bare walls, blackout curtains, 2 bedrooms. Security cameras covered every external angle. For Sophia Montgomery, it was more of a home than the mansion she once shared with Richard. She sat on the edge of a plain leather couch, back straight. The quadruplets were asleep in the next room. Her attorney, Laura Ruiz, sat opposite her, silent, waiting. Sophia didn't speak immediately. She watched the steam rise from her untouched tea. Finally, she asked, without looking up, "Do you think I'm weak, Laura?" Laura hesitated. "No." Sophia's lips tightened. "Richard does." A pause. Then Sophia began. "At first it wasn't obvious. He made me feel lucky. Special, even. I believed him when he said no one else understood his world. He'd bring me roses one night and silence me the next." Laura listened, her tablet inactive in her lap. "When I got pregnant, everything changed. He said it was too soon. He said the timing would hurt his image. I wasn't allowed at events. No baby showers, no public photos. I carried our children in silence while he carried on with his empire." Her voice didn't break. She was too numb for that. "I found out about the first mistress when I was 6 months pregnant. Not Camila. Someone before her. When I confronted him, he said I had misunderstood. He made me believe I was paranoid, hormonal. He blocked my accounts after that argument." Laura's jaw tightened. She had heard stories like this before, but Sophia's containment unnerved her more than tears would have. "The twins were born premature, emergency C-section. I was unconscious. When I woke up, Richard wasn't there." Sophia's hands clenched into fists in her lap. "I asked the nurse why he wasn't holding them. She told me he never came." A long silence. Laura's throat tightened. "Not even once?" Sophia shook her head slowly. "Not even once." She turned to Laura for the first time. "The world thinks he's a distant father. Cold, maybe. But they don't know the truth." Laura's voice softened. "Tell me." Sophia inhaled carefully. "He didn't hold his children because he didn't care if they lived." Laura blinked. Sophia continued. "I once overheard him tell the doctor. He said if they didn't make it, it would be less complicated. I let that horror settle. I let him take everything, Laura. My name, my home, my money. And worst of all, my silence." Laura leaned forward, her voice firm now. "But not anymore." "No." Sophia nodded. "Not anymore." The tea was cold. Laura leaned in, her eyes sharp. "You need to decide now. Do we settle quietly, or do we burn him publicly?" Sophia answered without hesitation. "I want the world to know what he did, what he never did." Laura nodded once. "Then tomorrow we file the suit." Sophia's gaze drifted to the closed bedroom door, where her children slept quietly for once. "People think this is about money. It's not." Laura's voice softened. "What is it about?" "History." Laura slightly frowned. Sophia's tone was brittle, definitive. "I will not let my children grow up thinking silence is strength." Laura understood then. Richard Montgomery's empire was not Sophia's target. His legacy was. Laura stood. "I'll prepare the statements." But Sophia wasn't finished. She reached for her phone and pulled up a gallery. Dozens of photos, not posed, not public. Quiet moments of 4 small children growing up. Laura watched as Sophia scrolled through them in silence. Finally, Sophia whispered, more to herself than anyone, "He never looked at them." Laura said nothing. Outside, the security lights flickered. Silence settled again over the safe house. But it wasn't safety Sophia felt. It was the calm before the war, the execution. The next morning, the world had chosen sides. Sophia Montgomery's name trended across 5 continents. News anchors endlessly debated grainy airport footage and speculated about the mysterious quadruplets clinging to her skirt. Commentators dissected her silence, her expression, her makeup-free face. Was she a cold, calculating woman staging a vendetta? Or a broken, betrayed wife? It depended on which channel you watched. The image of X. Richard Montgomery's PR team acted quickly. A carefully worded statement was leaked within hours. Mr. Montgomery deeply regrets the emotional distress caused by the airing of private matters. He remains committed to his role as a father and asks for privacy for his children. The headline spun, "A misunderstood father." Richard liked that line. Behind the mirrored glass walls of his penthouse office, Richard paced like a caged animal, reviewing draft after draft of his next speech. His personal assistant nervously hovered nearby. "Control the narrative," he muttered. "That's all that matters." But no script could reverse what had happened. Somewhere deep down, Richard knew he had carried the wrong bag. And now, the media was carrying the story. Across town, Camila watched the same headlines. Her name, her photos, her career. Shattered. It had taken less than 12 hours for the press to find her modeling profiles, her old Instagram photos, her interviews about female empowerment. Now, every image had a new caption. "The mistress who destroyed a billion-dollar marriage." Online comments filled her inbox. Slut. Gold digger, homewrecker. She almost believed them. She turned off the phone. But the silence didn't help. Camila was huddled on the floor of a borrowed apartment, knees pulled to her chest, mascara smeared with tears, blinds drawn against the daylight. Richard hadn't called. She hated herself for waiting for him. On TV, analysts speculated on her role in the scandal, as if her life were a subplot in Richard's downfall. One commentator chuckled cruelly. Did she think she was special? That's what mistresses always think. Camila closed her eyes. Maybe he was right. Across town, in the quiet of her safe house, Sophia sat, watching the same coverage. But where Camila wept, Sophia only watched in silence, her expression unreadable. Every insult hurled at her did not wound her. Every accusation of being cold only confirmed what she had been taught. That a woman who doesn't cry is dangerous. That a woman who speaks up is ungrateful. Richard had taught her well. But now, the world could look. And Sophia intended to let them. Back in his penthouse, Richard rehearsed. This was a misunderstanding. My wife and I have differences, yes. But he stopped, frustrated. The assistant waited. Then he hesitated. Sir, with all due respect, people, they might not believe you. Richard turned slowly, eyes sharp. I built this city's skyline. His assistant said nothing. Richard's phone vibrated. He checked it, expecting support. Instead, the text from his legal advisor froze him. She hired Laura Ruiz. Richard's hand tightened around the phone. Ruiz wasn't a divorce lawyer. She was a war strategist. His mouth went dry. Richard looked out the window, the city he once owned, realizing that he was no longer writing the script. Sophia was, and she was in no hurry. On the world's screens, her silence spoke louder than Richard's carefully crafted words. The media wasn't covering a scandal. They were witnessing a public execution. Richard Montgomery just didn't know if he was the victim or the criminal. The confrontation. Camila waited in silence. The hotel suite was too perfect. Beige walls, gold accents, sterile luxury, like the life she once dreamed of. Now, she sat on the edge of a velvet chair, twisting her trembling fingers. Every second dragged. She almost bolted when the door clicked open. Sophia walked in. No security. No lawyer. Just her. Quiet. Controlled. Terrifying. She closed the door softly behind her. The click louder than Camila's heartbeat. Neither woman spoke. Camila stood. Too fast. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Sophia raised a single hand. Camila fell silent. Sophia crossed the room with careful, deliberate steps. She didn't sit. She stood over Camila, staring. I know why you called me. Camila swallowed hard. I need to know if it was all a lie. Sophia tilted her head slightly. You want me to tell you the truth about Richard? Camila nodded. Sophia's voice was quiet. Too quiet. Fine. She didn't pace. She didn't lecture. She told the story. I met him when I was your age, 4. He said I was different. Special. The only one who saw the man behind the empire. Camila's lips parted. Horror dawned on her. Sophia's tone never changed. He told me his exes didn't understand him, that he felt trapped, that I was his freedom. Camila's knees gave slightly. She sat down, unwillingly. Sophia continued. When I got pregnant, he said it wasn't the right time. He said it would hurt his future. I believed him. Her eyes flickered then, briefly, a flash of something raw. I spent my first pregnancy alone in a mansion, with my own accounts blocked, with staff instructed not to talk to me unless necessary. Camila's throat tightened. I thought you were the problem. I know, Sophia said softly. A pause. Do you know what Richard said when I asked him why he never came to the hospital? Camila shook her head. Tears starting. Sophia's voice was pure steel. He said, they'll survive without me. Camila's tears overflowed. Sophia leaned slightly forward. And that is when I realized something. Camila looked up. Broken. Sophia delivered the line with surgical precision. You are not my enemy. Camila blinked. You are the next version of me. The silence shattered Camila. She sobbed, uncontrollably. Shame and grief washing over her all at once. She shook her head. I didn't know. Sophia watched. Not cruel, not compassionate, just finished. I believe you. That somehow hurt Camila more. Sophia finally sat down, her posture impeccable. You weren't the first, and you won't be the last. I loved him. Camila's voice cracked like glass. I did too. Camila buried her face in her hands. Sophia let the silence stretch, giving Camila the collapse Richard never allowed her. Then, Sophia's tone changed. Practical. Sharp. You need to decide now. Camila looked up. Decide what? Sophia's gaze was ice. Are you going to keep pleading for crumbs of his attention? Or will you disappear before he destroys what you have left? It wasn't advice. It was a warning. Sophia stood. Camila whispered through tears. Why did you come? Sophia's expression finally broke, a hint of something maternal. I came so you wouldn't make my mistake. She walked to the door, her hand on the knob. She hesitated. Then, without turning, Sophia spoke softly. When he calls you, and he will, don't answer. The door opened. Sophia paused, then delivered the last words Camila would ever hear her say. He only calls when he needs to win. And then she was gone. Camila sat alone, sobbing in a luxury hotel suite she no longer believed in, weeping for a future that never was. But somewhere deep inside, a new thought began to take root. Escape. And maybe vengeance. Sophia's justice. The courtroom was colder than Sophia expected. She sat next to Laura Ruiz, hand steady, expression unreadable. The press filled every available seat beyond the glass barrier. Cameras were not allowed inside. But the world was still watching. Richard sat opposite her. He looked smaller now. Not physically. The power had left him. Sophia didn't look at him. She didn't need to. "Mrs. Montgomery, do you wish to speak?" the judge asked. Sophia rose, her black dress immaculate, her posture unwavering. When she spoke, her voice carried. "I am not here for money." Silence. She let the words settle. "I am here for my children." Richard shifted. Sophia continued. "I am seeking exclusive custody of my 4 children, and full control of the family trust allocated to them." A murmur went through the gallery. Laura remained still beside her. Silent and strong, Sophia's voice strained. Steel wrapped in silk. "For years, Mr. Montgomery ensured I remained, legally and financially dependent. He controlled every pound, every decision. When I was pregnant, he isolated me. He denied me access to medical decisions and refused to show up for their birth." She paused. Let the silence cut. "He has never held them." Gasps. Even the judge's eyes flickered. Sophia pressed on. "I have documented proof of his financial strangulation, copies of bank records, surveillance footage showing his absence during medical emergencies, and signed declarations from staff confirming his refusal to acknowledge his children's existence." Richard said nothing. Sophia turned fully to the judge. "I am not asking for justice." A pause. "I am taking it." She sat down. The judge's expression tightened. Laura whispered softly beside her. "You won." But Sophia didn't smile. Across the room, Richard's lawyers stood, attempting damage control. Legal jargon, corporate interests, terms like misunderstanding, complex family structures, breach of privacy. Richard never spoke. He sat immobile, silent, but impotent. By mid-afternoon, the ruling was swift. Full custody granted to Sophia Montgomery. Control of the trust. Hundreds of millions. Transferred to her authority. Richard retained visitation rights. Sophia's eyes remained blank at that. She knew he wouldn't use them. When the judge's gavel finally fell, Laura touched her arm gently. "It's done." Sophia stood. Richard remained seated. For the first time, Sophia allowed herself to look at him. Not with hate, not with fear, with nothing. And that emptiness shattered him more than rage ever could have. The courtroom doors opened. Reporters crowded outside, waiting for statements. Laura asked gently, "Do you want to say anything to the press?" Sophia answered without hesitation. "No." She walked out into the sunlight. Cameras flashed. People shouted questions. But she didn't speak. She simply walked. And the world watched. Not Richard. Not the billionaire. Nor the victim. But Sophia Montgomery, a woman no longer silent. A symbol of quiet strength. Back inside. Richard finally stood. His lawyer said something. Richard didn't hear. He walked to the courthouse exit. Alone. No cameras chased him. Outside. The headlines exploded. Sophia Montgomery wins. Richard loses everything. Back in his penthouse, Richard poured a drink. But he didn't drink it. He stared at the news reports until the glass slipped from his hand and shattered. The empire he built was burning. Not because of a scandal. Because of a woman who refused to stay invisible. And in that moment, Richard Montgomery understood. He was no longer the story. Sophia was. The price of being forgotten, Richard Montgomery now lived in silence. His villa, perched on a private cliff overlooking the ocean, was lit with sunlight. He never noticed. Staff came and went wordlessly. Meals lay untouched. Power had never felt so empty. Every morning, he sat in the same leather chair in front of the massive TV screen. News reports played on endless loops. Not about his company. Not about him. About her. Sophia Montgomery, public appearances, charity launches, children's health initiatives. Every headline bore her name. Every photograph showed her with 4 children. His children. Richard watched as their faces aged in each new broadcast, but he didn't recognize them, because he had never tried to. At night, when staff assumed he was asleep, Richard sat alone, rewinding the footage of Sophia's courtroom declaration. He has never held them. The words haunted him more than any scandal. In his mind, he repeated a question that never found an answer. Why didn't I? No calls came now, no invitations. His name was a currency no one wanted. Powerless, unloved, forgotten. That was the price, and he paid it alone. Across town, a different world unfolded. A small, quiet park. Simple swings, worn benches, the murmur of ordinary life. Sophia sat on a wooden bench, watching her children play. Their laughter wasn't loud, just real. 4 children ran across the grass, identical but distinct in energy. One climbed, one spun in circles. 2 argued over a toy. Sophia watched, silently. Laura had asked her why she came here, to this ordinary park. Sophia never answered. This park felt honest. A place with no cameras, no narratives, no Richard. She closed her eyes briefly, breathing in freedom. Then she felt it. A presence. When she opened her eyes, Camila was standing across the pathway. Time slowed. Neither woman moved. Camila's hair was shorter now, her eyes clearer. She wore no makeup, no heels, just simple clothes. She was blending into the world for the first time. They said nothing, but their gazes met. And that was enough. A look charged with shared history, pain, betrayal, survival. 2 women, 2 lives, ruined by the same man. 2 lives rebuilt. Without him, a child's laughter broke the silence between them. Camila's lips trembled. Not with sadness, but relief. She gave a small, respectful nod. And then she turned, walked away silently down the path, disappearing into the footpath, towards a future she could finally claim as her own. Sophia watched until Camila was gone. She didn't pursue her. She didn't speak. She simply turned back to her children. She didn't need to look over her shoulder. Some wars don't need winners, just endings. Back at the villa, Richard's drink was still untouched. The sun set beyond the ocean. Bleeding red on the horizon, Richard played the same clip of Sophia's voice again. I am not asking for justice. I am taking it. As the screen flickered in the gloom, Richard whispered to the empty room. I could have fixed it. No one answered, because no one listened. Richard Montgomery, once the man who owned the city, now watched his empire in ruins. His children, strangers, and the woman he underestimated, standing in the light he believed was his. The price of power wasn't losing everything. It was realizing too late what it felt like to have nothing. And somewhere, out of his sight, his children were learning how to laugh without him. What did you think of this story of vengeance, redemption, and a mother's true strength? Leave me your comments, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more impactful tales. And that, dear friends, is where we leave the field of battle. Richard is alone, but he may have a final, unseen enemy, the woman he mistook for a casualty. What do you think Camila will do with Richard's secrets? Will she join forces with Sophia, or start her own empire of revenge? Let me know your deepest theories in the comments below. If you found this ending shocking and satisfying, please hit that like button and share this with someone who loves a good twist. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where the quiet ones always get the last word.